Welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. Concealed carry is something that is very important to me, as I'm sure it is to a lot of you. If you are a responsible gun owner, chances are that you carry a gun concealed. Now, I stay specifically concealed as compared to open carry, and I have reasons for that. But in this video, I want to go through some possible mistakes people can make when it comes to concealed carry, even mistakes that I have personally made and learned from. Maybe you can learn from my mistakes. And with those mistakes, maybe some tips that'll make it easier, more comfortable, and more confident for you to concealed carry and be an effective, responsible gun owner. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to Sawtooth Tactical, hit that bell notification, and let's get started. So this is my concealed carry setup. Despite all these other firearms that you see here, what I carry is fairly standard. It's a SIG P365. I do have the Wilson Combat Grip module on it. I carry it in a We the People inside the waistband holster, and I used a Core Essentials belt. Core Essentials belts are awesome. But it took me a while to get to where I am now, and I had to learn things along the way, and I had to make mistakes to learn what worked well for me. And what works for me might not necessarily work for you, but these same principles will apply. So the first thing I want to talk about is using the wrong holster. That is definitely a mistake, but it's an easy mistake to make, especially when you don't know any better. So when I got my first gun that I tried to carry, it was a Ruger Security 9 Pro. And the first holster that I got for it was this. And the reason I got this is because I didn't know any better and because I was trying to save money. And you're going to spend all this money on a gun that you like and then cheap out on a holster. That is a huge mistake. And I learned that very quickly. I went with this. I found it on Amazon. It was super cheap and it was made for lots of different guns. In fact, I think that I searched like Ruger Security 9 holster, and this might have been the first thing that came up, or at least the cheapest thing that came up. And since I didn't know any better at the time, I ordered it. I tried to carry that pistol in this holster and it was uncomfortable. I could tell I was printing. And so it made me not feel confident. It made me feel like people could tell that I was carrying a gun. I was constantly having to adjust it and move it, which is another huge mistake because concealed carry is exactly that. It is concealed carry. And so if you're going to carry concealed, if you're constantly adjusting and moving your gun around because it's moving on your belt, that's not going to work for you. It is no longer concealed. And the reason why I talk about concealed carry versus open carry, there are many reasons. For one thing, I think open carry makes people uncomfortable. Whether it should or not, we do have the Second Amendment. We all should have the right to protect ourselves, and in many states we do. The other part of it is that if you're going to concealed carry, you want to have the element of surprise. If there is someone out there that wants to do you or other people harm, you don't want them to know that you're armed right off the bat, right? You want to have the element of surprise so that if you have to deal with that situation, you can do it effectively. So there are many holsters that could be the wrong holster. Like I said, this is the first one I got. This is an outside the waistband holster. I use this at the range for my M&P 2.0. You know, it's a light bearing holster and it's a great range holster. Not a concealed carry holster though. This is a big rig right here. Not what you want. There are just lots of things that could be the wrong holster. This is what I've found to me to be the right holster. Very simple. This is a We the People holster. Kydex. Get a holster that is specifically made for your gun. You hear this? Click. It has good retention. The retention is adjustable. And it is retention within the trigger guard, and it covers the entire trigger guard. That's very important that your holster covers the entire trigger guard and that it has retention so that someone can't get that gun off of you, so that when you are doing things, being active, living your life, that your gun is not going to come out of its holster and that nothing can actuate the trigger unless you draw your firearm and want to pull that trigger yourself. What I love about this holster specifically is how adjustable the belt clip is, so you can change the cant of it and find the right position that rides well for you. And that is going to be, for me, it's kind of that FBI forward cant that makes it print the least. I carry at the 3:30, 4 o'clock position. I know that appendix is very popular these days. Sometimes I carry appendix as well, but only in specific situations. But whatever works for you, find the right position that works for you. You might spend a lot of money going through holsters. I've got like a drawer full of holsters, and I know a lot of people do, but you can save money by, in my opinion, starting with Kydex with a holster that's made for your gun and a quality holster. There are a ton of quality holster manufacturers out there, like Tier 1 Concealed, T-Rex Arms. They make incredible holsters, especially appendix rigs. I think eventually I might get one of those to try out the correct appendix holster. But I have found what works for me. I've been carrying like this for a long time now, and it works great. So mistake number 4 that I think a lot of people make is using the wrong belt. And I'm guilty of this myself. When I first started carrying, and in fact, for a very long time, I used this belt right here. It's a leather belt. I love this belt. I think it looks great. And it's fairly rigid for a leather belt. And so that's why I thought it was a good concealed carry belt. Well, I was absolutely wrong. And finally, I decided to get a real gun belt, and it makes all the difference in the world. This is a Core Essentials belt. You can get them in tons of different styles, tons of different belt clips. They make leather belts. They make lots of good belts. But the thing about them that's great is you can see how much stiffer this thing is than that leather belt. It's very stiff. It'll hold the weight of your gun, your holster, extra mags if you need it to. And what it does is it has this ratcheting system here. You hear that? And then there's a little button or a lever on the bottom to loosen it, and it adjusts in 1/4 inch increments. So throughout your day, if you feel like it is sagging at all, you can adjust it tighter, and you can do it without anybody noticing. If you just ate a big meal and you're sitting down at a restaurant, you need to loosen it a little, you can reach down and pull on this lever, and it'll loosen a notch or two. So it's adjustable on the fly, and it's extremely stiff, but not so stiff that it's uncomfortable. I know people have asked me that in my video about this belt. It is not uncomfortable. In fact, when it comes to carrying my gun and holster, it's a lot more comfortable because, again, like I said in the previous segment there, with the right belt, the holster doesn't move around, so I don't have to constantly adjust it, move it, do things like that would give away that I'm carrying a gun. So it's a lot more comfortable that way. And comfort is very important because if you're not comfortable, you're much less likely to carry, and that's gonna get close to my number 1 thing, which, spoiler alert, is not carrying every day. In order to carry every day, you have to be comfortable. So that brings me to number 3, and that is carrying the wrong gun. And again, I've learned all these things through my own experience. I would love to carry this gun, It's got a good light on it. It's got a red dot. It's got a large capacity, 17+1. I shoot it very well. I love this pistol, but I can't carry it comfortably. Some people can carry bigger guns and it works just fine for them. For me, I have found that what works is this SIG P365. P365 XL, another great one. You've got Springfield Hellcat, the Hellcat Pro. You've got the Smith & Wesson Shield Plus, Glock 43X. There's a lot of great carry guns on the market these days. And even, they do make the P365X macro. It actually has the same capacity as something like this, but in a much slimmer frame. And that's one of the dimensions that's going to be very important, is the thickness of it. You can see how much slimmer the P365 is than that M&P 2.0. And so, again, it just makes it that much more comfortable to carry because I just don't even notice it's there. I've gotten so used to carrying this gun, this holster, that Core Essentials belt, that it's like I don't even have it on, except that I know it is there if I need it. And that is very, very important. So make sure you use the right holster, the right belt, and the right gun. Now, let's talk about ammo. So your ammunition selection is also very, very important. Now, when you're at the range training, for the most part, use something, full metal jacket, ball ammo. Generally, when I'm just going out shooting, I use the cheapest ammo that I can find that's, decent freaking brass ammo. But when it comes to carry, I like to use something like this. This is Federal HST hollow points. That's what's in my carry gun currently. Or something like Hornady, Critical Defense, Critical Duty, Spear Gold Dot. Something that is a tested and true effective defensive ammunition. Now, I'm not saying that full metal jacket ball ammo won't put a hole in someone, because it will. The military's used it for years. It's definitely effective. But real defensive ammunition has been tested by the FBI to have the correct amount of penetration and expansion to neutralize a target. And that is very important. So make sure that you carry the right ammo. And when it comes to training and shooting, make sure that you shoot with your carry gun. Now, it might not be your favorite gun to shoot. This 1911 up here, this gun is an absolute joy to shoot. 9mm out of a full-size steel frame 1911. It is so accurate and so soft shooting. It's really just fun. This SIG P365 is not as fun to shoot. Although, I gotta give it to SIG. This shoots a lot better than most smaller guns that I've used. But you have to train with the gun that you're gonna carry so that you're used to the way that gun shoots, point of aim, point of impact. You know how the recoil is gonna affect you and everything else. And in that same vein, you do have to shoot some of the defensive ammo that you carry. And I know that it's more expensive. And so the way I do it is I shoot mostly full metal jacket rounds when I go out and shoot. But I make sure to put a few magazines of the defensive ammo that I'm going to use in that gun through that gun to make sure that that gun will cycle that ammo. Hollow points are not shaped the same way as full metal jacket rounds. And so you want to make sure that those rounds are going to feed correctly and that your gun is going to cycle them. And also, you need to get used to the added recoil of like a plus P, a full pressure, higher pressure round than what like your standard 115 grain range ammo. Because you will get more recoil out of these defensive rounds. And so you need to be used to that to a certain extent. So that kind of gets me into number one, and that is not training. And this one, luckily, I am not guilty of. I go out shooting every single weekend. Obviously, it's something I'm passionate about. I've created a YouTube channel about guns and shooting. I love it. It's a recreational hobby of mine, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. But a lot of people will buy a gun, buy a holster, and they think that they're good to go. Well, you need to practice, and you have to practice, like I said, with the gun that you're going to carry, with the ammo that you're going to carry. But besides that, I mean, you're not going to freaking shoot hundreds and thousands of rounds probably of your defensive hollow points. I mean, you could if you can afford to do that. But use whatever, regular range ammo and go out and train regularly. Shooting is a skill that degenerates if you don't use it. So make sure that you're training often, that you are comfortable with your firearm, that you are, where it's going to hit and you feel confident with it. Because confidence is very important when it comes to carrying your gun. Now, follow all the rules of gun safety. Make sure that you are responsible. Don't go around showing people, oh, hey, look, I'm carrying a gun. You want it to be concealed. You want to have that element of surprise. So let's just recap real quick. Don't use the wrong holster. Something like this? No. Something like this? Yes. Don't use the wrong belt. Get a real gun belt. Like I said, I love the Core Essentials. Next belt, there's a lot of good ones. Get a good, real gun belt. Make sure you get a gun that works for you to carry. If you're a big guy and you can carry a full-size 1911, that weight doesn't bother you and you don't feel like it prints, good on you. That doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for a lot of people. Something like this is like a Glock 19 size gun. This is about as big as I would carry. And even something like this, I'd probably generally only carry appendix because just the size of that, it's going to stick out and it's going to print more, and you have to be conscious of that. So I like something, a gun that's made for carry, like this SIG P365. Again, you don't have to go with SIG. There's a lot of great options out there. Find one that works for you, but you're not going to carry if you're not comfortable and confident carrying. So make sure you find a gun that you can carry comfortably, that you don't feel like is going to print, but that you know that you can shoot well and be effective with. Again, the ammo choice, very important. Train. Make sure your gun runs your defensive ammo, but pick a good defensive ammo that you know is effective and that has a record of that. And then, number one thing, train, and carry every single day. That is probably the most important thing. There's no point in carrying if you're only going to do it sometimes. And make sure that you carry with a round in the chamber. Now, if you're just getting into concealed carry, I can understand maybe carrying with an empty chamber at first if you're worried about the safety of it, just to get comfortable carrying a gun. But don't do that for long, because a gun with an empty chamber is about as useful as carrying a hammer concealed. You don't want to have to take the time to rack the slide in a situation. I promise you. I've thought about this for a long time. So have a lot of other people. Everyone will pretty much tell you, carry with a round in the chamber. Your gun is not going to go off by itself unless you pull that trigger. And that is why you need the holster that covers the trigger guard. If your gun is chambered, as long as nothing can pull that trigger, your gun is safe. This holster acts as a manual safety. This gun doesn't have a manual safety. You can get one that does if you want. I don't feel like I want one. Again, I don't want something extra to do if I ever find myself in that situation of having to use my gun. Carry with a round in the chamber. Carry every day. Carry a gun, holster, and belt that is comfortable for you. Use the right carry ammunition and train and shoot as often as possible. Those are my tips for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to put a link to my Patreon down below. I haven't done that in a long time. But if you can afford $1, $2, $5 a month to help my channel out, the channel is growing very fast right now, and I would greatly appreciate that because all of this stuff costs a lot of money. Anyway, please subscribe. Please like and share this video if you liked it. And from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.